This video is brought to you by Surfshark. Stick around to hear more about the special offer they are providing to the entire Upper Echelon community. How many people watching this have heard about the drones over New Jersey? Obviously, people living in America are much more likely to have heard about it, but after the story made international headlines, it's become somewhat of a global mystery. Thousands of independent sightings, vague or deflecting statements by the US government, all surrounded by overtly sensational postings on social media, of course. But if we take a step backwards and try to be objective here, what can we actually learn? What can we reasonably infer? And what's really going on with the drones over America? Because it may have started there, but it's not just a thing in New Jersey anymore.
Tonight, the investigation into reports of small car-sized drones hovering over New York and New Jersey is deepening.
New action tonight as local officials demand answers after weeks of unexplained drone sightings across the Northeast.
The Department of Homeland Security and the FBI are investigating these sightings, and they're working closely with state and local law enforcement to provide resources.
US officials are downplaying drone sightings over the state of New Jersey, saying there's no evidence of any national security threat.
You're telling me we don't know what the hell these drones are in New Jersey are? Is that correct?
That's right.
We should be shot down if necessary.
All right. Obviously, Congress has no idea what they were, especially if they were talking about shooting them down. The media was, of course, fanning the flames for clicks, but the single greatest common denominator, obviously ignoring the more outlandish claims about Iranian motherships off the coast, which was propagated by New Jersey Congressman Jeff Van Drew. Absurdities aside, the common denominator here was car-sized flying drones. Lots of them. First thing to quickly debunk right now, if these drones did actually compare in any similar sense to the size of a car, it is extremely unlikely that they were simply hobbyist or commercially available drones. The technology for current drone operators, if we simply define drone as remote piloted aerial vehicle, caps out completely with what are called the air truck and spray hawk drones, which aren't even really drones, they're more like UAV helicopters that are manufactured by Rotor Technologies. These drones are intended for use in agriculture and construction, with a price tag of roughly $1 million each, so it's pretty safe to say that these are not the vehicles responsible for panic in New Jersey. However, a much closer possibility, perhaps, and drone operators can feel free to correct me if I make a mistake down in the comments below, a closer possibility would be something like the Autel Titan. This is one of the largest electronic drones available for purchase right now, intended for package delivery and heavy lifting, often employed by companies like Amazon, which comes in at roughly 1880 by 1860 millimeters, converting then to 74 by 74 inches, which is about 6 feet wide. If we consider the rampant claims of car-sized drones in the sky, suddenly it seems plausible, until you realize that these drones cost $42,000 each, making it incredibly unlikely that dozens of independent hobbyists across the state of New Jersey simultaneously decided to fly them around in the sky together all at once. Again, plausible, perhaps, but very hard for me to personally believe. Here's the thing. In order to go down the conspiracy rabbit hole in what I hope is a responsible way, we have to first understand what it is that people saw. Reports were everywhere, from the BBC to ABC Australia, Fox News to CNN. But for right now, I want to focus on this. Orange UFO orbs spotted over Brookville Boulevard in Queens, December 29th, 2024. Bear with me here, because I want to read 2 short paragraphs right now from this particular sighting, which become increasingly relevant later on in the video. Quote, "Unidentified flying objects ignited curiosity and worry throughout the eastern United States during the holiday week. Vivid orange spheres, reportedly seen close to major airports and city regions, led locals and specialists to scrutinize the occurrences." Further down, "The observer characterized the encounter as 4 steady lights arranged in a boomerang shape. The post states that the orbs weren't still, but shifted slightly before disappearing individually." End quote. Very important here. Key things to remember. Orange spheres and boomerang shape. I want to also note here, there may still be drone sightings across the eastern and western coastal United States. The phenomenon quickly spread across the larger Northeast as well as California, but the viral interest for this story has since died down. If we look at Google Trends for both New Jersey and California, the spike of search term interest for drones above whichever state it happens to be has completely dried up, but a lot of that probably has to do with the media. See, the government straight up said, whether or not we believe them is an entirely different question for later, that they don't know what the drones are, and went on to, quote, "dispatch more resources to affected areas, But following those statements, the media mostly just stopped covering things. Having been assured that there's no active threat to national security, and also being bombarded on a daily basis by political topics and other breaking news, the story fell out of its mainstream spotlight, except after talking about everything with a friend of mine and seeing the video that was directly taken by his brother, which hasn't really been shared online publicly until now. I became extremely interested in the subject of drones over America, especially the conspiracy side of things, hence the video. Take a look at this. This is a map from enigmalabs.io, compiling all of the drone sightings across the Northeast and matching those sightings against the location of American military bases. It's not pinpoint accurate, far from it, but there certainly seems to be a correlation here, and after seeing this footage, right here in the background, which was taken by the brother of a personal friend, I was hooked. I won't go in depth on the math involved or spend too much time focusing on the clip itself, but this video, one of several that were taken containing the same object across a multi-minute time frame, cannot be a commercial airliner, or any sort of traditional plane that we know of, because it's simply not moving fast enough. In addition, it can't be a helicopter, or any sort of comparable vehicle with large rotors, because at the distance it was recorded from, there was no sound, leaving maybe a blimp, or some other aircraft I've never heard of, but the more important aspect of why I'm talking about this is because it got me interested, which led to another conversation, briefly, about a secret government program called Immaculate Constellation. And this, finally, is where the rabbit hole truly begins. Before going further, brand new year, brand new discount, same consistent sponsor of the channel, and that is Surfshark. You respect my time, so I'll respect yours. Here's the pitch for a product that I think provides exceptional value for the price tag. Surfshark is a VPN, a virtual private network, and VPNs have a bunch of different uses and functions. They can help prevent certain types of phishing attacks, DNS tunneling, DDoS attacks in particular, which is arguably the main purpose of a VPN. And they also help prevent data tracking / harvesting practices by big tech companies, which are becoming more and more common by the day, basically. For people that care much more about entertainment, Surfshark unlocks additional content on streaming websites, a number of them, by changing your geographic region, which opens up additional options in your video library. Surfshark also gets around regional censorship, websites being blocked in your region by, say, the government, and it helps protect your IP address with encryption, modification, and more. I say this in every single ad for good reason. Surfshark operates completely separate infrastructure from NordVPN, and Surfshark also maintains a warrant canary. Most people don't care or need to know about that, but in my view, it's a very good thing for a company like this to have. If you click the link down below, surfshark.com/echelon, you can get 4 extra months completely free, with a special pricing offer. Again, link down below, surfshark.com/echelon, for an extra 4 months of the service for free with a special offer. Big thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring the channel. All right, buckle up. First things first, Immaculate Constellation, as of right now, is officially denied by the US government. According to whistleblowers, of which there are multiple, it's a secret data retrieval program which aims to both detect and quarantine high-quality UFO footage across government agencies and servers. It's classified as a USAP, which means Unacknowledged Special Access Program. Let's say, for example, that the military happens to get high-resolution imagery of a flying saucer, or at least an unknown aircraft that they're not able to identify. Well, Immaculate Constellation purportedly exists for the purpose of grabbing that footage, keeping it out of the public eye, and sequestering it away from pretty much everyone, including, and this is the important part, the rest of the government. Well, presented in front of Congress recently, more specifically the House Oversight and Accountability Subcommittee on National Security, the Border, and Foreign Affairs during 2023, there was testimony about what it is that Immaculate Constellation does and why it exists, which is now, all of it, part of the public record. The key takeaway from that presentation and the subsequent information that was posted afterwards is this, quote, Immaculate Constellation includes high-quality imagery intelligence and measurement and signature intelligence of UAPs. UAP in this case meaning unidentified aerial phenomenon, which is basically just a modern way of saying UFO without the connotation of it being explicitly an alien spacecraft. Anyway, quote, the sources of this intelligence are a blend of directed and incidental collection capabilities positioned in low Earth orbit, the upper atmosphere, as well as military and civilian aviation altitudes and maritime environments. Further down, from 1991 to 2022, the most common UAP shapes reported in this USG dataset were spheres and orbs, disks and saucers, ovals and tic-tacs, triangles, boomerang/arrowhead, and irregular/organic. Continuing later, after a much more detailed account of how an F-22 had been surrounded by unknown objects, quote again, The UAPs appeared to emit a soft orange-red light which, bizarrely, did not illuminate the ocean or the flight deck of the CVN, despite the visual appearance of intense luminosity. The surface of the UAP was observed to be dynamic, roiling like the surface of the sun." End quote. This was very interesting to me because one of the more common trends during December of 2024, when the drones over New Jersey story first got started, and also let's recall the prior example that we gave in this video itself, involved orb sightings, oftentimes glowing and orange, even incorporating the shapes, like a boomerang. All of which we see here inside whistleblower testimony that was given to Congress in 2023. Like it or not, skeptic or not, these are common and very similar themes. Now, before anyone starts in on how a program like Immaculate Constellation can't be real because we'd know more about it, or how the government would acknowledge it, or even generally just scoffing at the idea overall, let me just connect a few more dots. Area 51, initially established in 1955 allegedly as a secret flight testing facility for the U-2 bomber, was widely known about for decades, but never officially acknowledged. According to the US government, the facility didn't exist. That is until 2013, when a FOIA request, that is Freedom of Information Act, revealed specific documents about the facility, even including a literal map of it, which forced the government, specifically the CIA, to publicly acknowledge that it was real. Everybody knew about Area 51, but the government still denied it was there for decades, because that's what the United States government does. In particular, that's what clandestine agencies in the United States government do, and they've done it since they were initially conceived. How about this? During a previous video that I made about a trove of government documents that were supposedly leaked in a hacking community called breach forums, one document in particular stood out to me, and it was an interview with former President Truman, where the topic strayed into secret government special access programs and UFOs, which is particularly relevant now through the lens of Immaculate Constellation, and thus very much worth reading out loud. It's long, I know, but it's definitely worth it. Quote, "In December of 1963, former President Truman was questioned regarding his role in organizing a secret panel within the government to collect vital information concerning unidentified flying objects and to keep him informed of any significant developments that would affect US foreign relations and the balance of power within the Soviet Union. He was asked if he knew that the Central Intelligence Agency had engaged in foreign and domestic covert operations to secure evidence from various sources. He was also asked the embarrassing question, did you authorize Operation Majestic 12? Majestic 12, by the way, refers to a secret program for, quote, recovering extraterrestrial aircraft and covering up this work from public examination, which an Air Force investigation allegedly debunked. Sound familiar? Remember, everybody knew about Area 51, yet the government decided to pretend it didn't exist for 60 years. Keep that in mind. Anyway, Majestic 12 was supposedly a top secret program for the recovery of UFOs, which President Truman was being questioned about. Back to it. Quote, he was asked the embarrassing question, did you authorize Operation Majestic 12? To which he replied, I never had any thought about it after leaving office. He added, it was not my intention when I set up the CIA. It would be injected into strange activities of that sort. He was upset when this subject was brought up, and it was sensed that Mr. Truman was being coy and evasive. When he was shown documents which he signed, he seemed very surprised and asked, where did you get this? He was told that they came from the CIA. He quietly and without further comment said, oh. After some reflection, he said, Congress was in for a greater surprise, for what legislators were asked to create in 1947 and what they thought they were creating was an intelligence arm of the government. What they did was hand the CIA, by that I mean the Director of Central Intelligence, the authority to withhold UFO information from the public, including Congress, end quote. There's more about surveillance and concealing budgets, etc., but for today's video, the part that matters is how the United States Central Intelligence apparatus has very clearly been given the authority to conceal operations from Congress, which is now, allegedly, the basis for a program called Immaculate Constellation, which has specific mention of the same exact colors, shapes, and structures compared to what was commonly seen above New Jersey and the broader Northeast in a massively viral phenomenon about which the United States sitting Congress was quite obviously clueless, some of them saying things like shoot them down or talking about motherships from Iran. Suffice it to say, when the government says, these are just civilian drones, don't worry about it, I do not and cannot realistically believe them. Now, playing devil's advocate here for the sake of being thorough, this was a massively viral occurrence over the span of multiple weeks, and a natural byproduct of that is, for lack of a better word, trolling, or maybe doing the thing that the media is constantly talking about because they're constantly talking about it, and people just want to be involved. Yeah, an example of that would be stringing balloons together with flashing lights in them and then releasing it up into the air, which appears to have been something that at least a few people actually did. Or maybe even getting a larger drone and flying it around because that's the media fad in New Jersey at the time. These types of secondary instances absolutely happened, probably a lot of them. It's called media contagion effect officially, and it happens with serial killers or mass tragedies, especially when they're indirectly glorified through absurd amounts of media coverage. And the same thing obviously happened here to some degree with the drones. However, whether or not there was an abundance of copycat sightings or outright trolling, doesn't change the fact that the initial phenomenon, the snowballs that set off the avalanche, if you will, still very much did happen, and they still have eerily similar descriptions compared to the findings of secret government programs that don't officially exist, despite a multitude of surrounding factors that make me think they very much do exist, leaving the entire video, I'm sorry to say this, as a bit of an unanswered question. We don't know, and likely never will know, or at least not for probably decades, why those drones were up there, or even if they were drones in the first place. Some of them were planes, yes, a lot of people piled on board a national media story and thought they saw something, blah, 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 when in reality it was completely benign. But I find myself forced to believe that there really was some sort of, secret operation happening. Not sure if I'd go so far as to say it was the aliens, but it damn sure wasn't nothing, like some people are now claiming. Overall, it's a fascinating series of events: the drones, the public interest, the politician outcry, and the reality of how secretive our government really is. But with all that said, it was just fun to make a video, discuss it responsibly, at least I hope responsibly, after the viral news phenomenon of drones over New Jersey turned into drones over America, with endless speculation in tow, and then kind of just disappeared from the media. But yeah, that's it. That's my take on the drones, which a lot of people have asked for. It's probably one of the more requested videos in the past couple of years, which is certainly late to the party when you consider it was a national story like 4 weeks ago. But lately I've been trying to have a better work-life balance, so I sort of just didn't do it until now. If you want to support the channel, check out the links down below. Very big deal if people want to use the Patreon, locals, and channel memberships here on YouTube. I don't currently paywall anything, nor do I want to, but I also want to shift away from ad reliance as much as possible, so yeah. Never required, but always appreciated. Also, the video's sponsor, of course, Surfshark, various other things as well, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, question everything, and have a nice night.